Recreational Liberals podcast.
And we're back again.
Here we are, reclaiming the name liberal, one episode at a
Cheers,
time.
my man. My caffeine.
Cheers to you and my alcohol.
Excellent. So, Matt, what do you want to talk about today, my friend?
Well, I think we're going to talk today about extraterrestrial life in the universe, aliens, UFOs, that sort of thing. I should have put my tinfoil hat on for this, huh?
Oh, we always wear one anyway. So,
Yeah.
Even if you can't see it. Is there a lining under your Pittsburgh Pirates hat,
Maybe.
maybe? I know there's a guy out there that sells those, so you can't be controlled by aliens.
What, sells Pittsburgh Pirate hats or
Well, I'm sure
tinfoil hats? It's kind of the same thing, Hey, I do want to say real quick, my Pirates are, at the time of the filming of this episode, are 10-5, off to a good start to the season. So
Wow.
we can figure out our closer situation, having a little bit of problem with blown saves. However, it's been fun to
They're
watch.
getting
so
your
far.
hopes up, man.
They do it all the time.
And they're winning.
Yeah, they're winning, so
They're winning. That's all
I'm
that
going to
matters.
continue to have my hopes
Enjoy
up.
it. Absolutely,
will.
man.
So-
What is it that they're doing right?
The offense is looking good. They're scoring runs. They're
Okay.
getting hits with runners in scoring position. The pitching's not bad. Everybody's contributing. They're looking good all around, really. So we'll see if that continues. But anyway,
Cheers to that, man. Hopefully
Yeah.
for continued success.
all right.
Well, anyways, yeah, I think we're gonna talk a little bit about something that I find interesting. I think you do too, right?
Yep, I do.
UAPs have become a big thing. It used to be called UFOs, but now it's called UAPs. Apparently, on the
I
official.
feel like that's one of those things. Like, why did they change the name?
I think there has to be a new psychological process around the name.
Same reason they changed the name.
If there is what they call soft disclosure going on, meaning where there was for a long time it was categorical denial on an official level.
Yeah.
Where maybe the name change marks the shift in philosophy coming from our official leaders in government.
Like, they don't want to admit UFOs are real, but they can say UAPs are real because it's a different word that hasn't been not demonized, but ridiculed.
If I had to give you my opinion, it's not because of that. I think it's because for a long time there was a psyops, psychological operations warfare against the word UFO, where the first thing you and I did was we've been trained to say tinfoil hat.
That's kind of what I'm getting at, actually, though. Like,
Yeah.
they changed it so they can admit UAPs are real.
Uh-huh.
They don't want to admit UFOs are real because of the ridicule.
There's already been so much damage done to the term UFO and aliens.
Yeah, it's all
That
about,
you now have to change the terminology in order to address it in a healthier way.
Yeah, because UFOs is all about, like, a parade in Roswell every year.
And I think there's a lot. This is such a loaded subject because it has heavy implications.
Yeah.
That if there is disclosure going on, because it looks like there is.
Seems to be. It seems like it's more...
they're having congressional hearings. They've had congressional hearings on it. The Pentagon has officially released videos of objects that they admit that they do not, or at least they say they don't know what they are, but defy all human technology. The videos exist, right? Even some of the documents they've put out talk about abductions by aliens on human beings. So this is literally not even hardly soft disclosure. It's just putting the information out there. And whether you care about it or not is going to determine whether you understand or know that it exists or not.
What's interesting, though, is it doesn't seem to have changed, like when they first came out with these congressional hearings, it's like all of a sudden everybody's like, oh, shit, UFOs. And I haven't heard anything about. We're filming. I don't know how long ago were those congressional hearings.
A couple of years, right?
Yeah, maybe was it? It's been a couple of years.
I think it's been a couple of years.
Holy shit! We'll do a different episode on how fast time goes.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
No, you just don't hear. You still don't hear people. Like, I always figured when the government finally had the UFO hearings in Congress, it would be like top news all over the place, and
It was.
it
for a
was,
minute.
but like it just went away like everything else, kind of, which is disappointing.
People still have their life to live.
Yeah, sure.
And honestly, how could that really replace your desire to make a living for yourself and have to pay the bills?
Yeah.
Okay, it's fine and well. Maybe ET does come around every once in a while. Maybe he is surveilling us, maybe whatever. But how does that pay my bills?
Yeah.
So, which I think that's actually a healthy way of processing it.
Yeah, probably.
Because it's practical.
I think it's more likely, though, that the general public still doesn't believe that any of it's real.
I'd love to know what the statistics is on it.
Yeah,
I'd love to know. I bet you it's a lot higher than it used to be.
You think so?
And the only reason I tell you that is the people I've known in my life who disregarded the subject, very practical people who kind of go along with the social current. My father-in-law comes to mind, Rich, love you. He called me. He goes, "Oh my God, I watched the congressional hearing on this. They're real." I was like, "Yeah, I've been following this my whole life."
Yeah.
So I guess I just kind of outed myself. It's been a subject that I've been very interested in my entire life.
Yeah.
And maybe the reason why is because I grew up on an island off the coast of Maine in the far as civilization. There is no light pollution. And if you're a sky watcher, which I've always been a sky watcher, you can see things, not all the time, but if you grow up in that situation, you might have a number of experiences of seeing something in the sky that looks completely like an aberration of anything that we know.
Yeah.
And because of that, and also my mom was into it too.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, this is cool. This is something interesting. And the 90s were a great time that I grew up for things being on television. There used to be television shows like UFO documentaries and Unsolved Mysteries with Robert Stack.
Yep.
And, the movie
stuff.
Fire in the Sky came out in that point in time about, I forget the guy's name, but there was a bunch of loggers based on a true story out in, I want to say, Arizona. And this guy went missing for a week. And the girls are trying to get in.
Yeah, I see it. I was trying to ignore him.
But I saw you looking over. You distracted me. But anyways, this guy, Travis Walton, was missing for a week. And when he came back, he had a hell of a story. And the other loggers, and this happened.
They made a movie about this, right?
Yeah, it happened in the 1970s, and they made a movie about it. And the other loggers that were part of his team,
What was the movie called?
Fire in the Sky.
That's right.
And they were under investigation for murder of this man when he just showed up a week later, telling everybody that, and they tried to tell the police this guy got hit with a beam of light and taken.
Yeah.
And the police, of course, aren't going to believe that in 1976 or whatever it was.
Wouldn't believe it now either. I mean,
no, nor should they believe that.
If you were a cop, neither would you.
No, I wouldn't either. Of course, no, you shouldn't take that as okay, he was abducted by aliens. Of course, yeah, right now, But then the guy shows up telling them that's exactly what happened, and it's cases like that to some people seem so implausible, and to others seem so likely.
Yeah.
We have such a polarized view or capability of seeing the subject that with the missing piece of governmental or leadership admission of this going on, it was hard for a lot of people to come to terms with this subject without any type of...
Because they need the government to tell them what's true and what's not, first of all, which is
a problem.
It is a problem, yeah.
Because, being a free thinker means that you don't take everything at face value.
Yeah.
You don't listen to what your leaders tell you with blind submission, right?
Yeah.
If they tell you it's real, you shouldn't believe them. If they tell you it isn't real, you shouldn't believe them.
Yeah.
You should think and figure it out for yourself as best as your ability. Because again, I only think in probabilities.
Yeah.
I think in likelihoods. I think in whether it's likely or unlikely or probable or improbable or nearly certain or nearly completely uncertain. Theoretics is a great way to go as far as philosophy.
So when we're talking about likely versus unlikely, to kind of play devil's advocate here, do you think it's unlikely, or it's more likely or more unlikely? And this is okay. We're going to assume for a second that UAPs or UFOs. I'm going to keep calling them UFOs. Actually,
that's cool. You call them whatever you want.
Fuck that. I'm not doing the.
Listen, we're all understanding.
That's what I grew up calling them. That's what I'm calling them now.
That's right.
UFOs. Let's assume that the UFOs are real, which I think it's pretty. With everything we've seen, I think it's very probable that there are unidentified flying objects that do weird things that appear to not obey physics. It's hard to even dispute that anymore. So we can say that these UFOs exist. Do you think they come from other star systems? And or do you think they come from other dimensions? Or where do you think they come from? Because my issue has always been, it takes 4 fucking years at the speed of light, 300,000 kilometers per second to get to the nearest star. It seems really, really difficult. Of course, there could be some sort of a situation where they're not using conventional. They know some sort of means of travel that we don't.
Of course, yeah.
In that case, why are they here on our little rock? What's so interesting about us? Or maybe they're coming from somewhere completely different. Just curious about where do you think they come from? Why do you think they're here? Maybe you don't even know, and that's because I don't. I've got
no, I don't. I'm not
theory on it.
I'm not certain.
Do you have a theory?
I'm not certain that anyone knows.
Yeah,
I don't. I certainly don't.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting and fun.
Yeah, it is fun
to come up with possibilities and be creative in your thinking. Because I feel like one of the shortfalls of humanity as a species is that we think too small.
Yeah.
We're far too self-centered in the way we look. Like almost as if the universe began when we began.
Yeah.
Okay? Or the world didn't exist before I was born and started thinking about it, right? When you shed that away, and there's something that astronauts call, I can't remember what the exact terminology for it is, but there's something that happens to you when you go out to space and you look back on Earth. And
I've heard of this before.
And you realize how trivial the things that we think matter are, and how important the things that we don't think matter are. So we are so self-centered, and in order to survive as a primitive species like we are, because we're all just evolved apes, right? Yeah. We have to think of things in a self-centered way in order to survive throughout, the way we did. So it's understandable why we're the way we are. Yeah. It's just that in a modern time, we need to shed that skin a little bit. Yeah. We need to realize that it's not America versus China, unless China fucks with us, and then it is against America against China.
Yeah, in our sense,
but we're all we're all a species of man. We're all brothers on one rock together.
You ever see the photo of Earth? I think it was Voyager that shot it. From I don't know where it was at when it shot it, like somewhere around like Jupiter or something like that. It's like just a band of light and a small little.
I know how infinitesimally insignificant we are.
It's like holy shit, like. Everybody you've ever known, everything that's ever happened in this little speck.
Well, even in recent months, they've come up with new ideas on the size of the universe, the age of the universe, and how fast it is or maybe isn't expanding. This is all even happened
all this
recently.
Stuff was like not settled,
pseudo-settled for a little while.
Like everybody kind of agreed on it, but since James Webb.
Exactly. So, and that seems to be expanding what we already thought was an imaginably almost infinite universe, right? Yeah. So here we are with the old way I used to describe it, is that we're just one star system in a galaxy that has 100 billion star systems in it. Yeah. Yeah. Now, if you don't understand what a billion is 1,000 million.
Which is 1,000,000.
And a million is 1,000,000.
Insane.
It is a number that people have a hard time grasping.
And you're talking about the galaxy. You're not talking about the universe.
We're just talking about the galaxy. We're just talking about
this is the galaxy.
Right now. People have a hard time understanding large numbers like that. Like, can you conceptualize?
That's why they play Powerball.
Can you look at the? No kidding, right? Yep. The 1 in 150 million chance of winning.
Once it gets up to a certain level, it's just like, it's a long shot.
It's like, really. So, but we have a hard time conceiving, the 542 M&Ms that are in this jar, right? imagine the 100 billion trying to conceive that number. And that's just the number of star systems in our galaxy. And again, this is going off the old numbers. And then we also conceive that there's 100 billion galaxies,
or many, many more,
that, or many, many more like our own.
Yeah, we're talking about the observable universe.
The observable universe.
Yeah.
And then you times that by the fact that there's a very strong possibility that we're not part of a one verse, but actually part of a multiverse, nearly infinite number of universes, which you take 100 billion times 100 billion, and that becomes how many star systems, or how many there are in the galaxy, and then you times that by an almost infinite number to determine how many number of universes there are.
You take the fact that there's different types of multiverses too. There's I think it was Max Tegmark. There's a book by Max Tegmark that kind of describes all this shit. It's you've got your Type 1 multiverse, which is So we've got our observable universe, which is as far as we can see based on the speed the light travels. You will never see anything beyond that because the light will never have time to reach us. That's our observable universe.
Understandable, yeah.
And I forgive me if I get the types wrong here, but
sure.
I believe the Type 1 multiverse is what's beyond that observable universe would be another. That doesn't mean the universe ends at the end of the observable universe, but that would be another universe for our purposes because no information from that universe can ever get to us. So there could be an infinite number of Type 1 multiverses, which is just extra space beyond our observable universe. The Type 2 multiverse would be, once again, forgive me if I get the types wrong, but the whole quantum physics does the universe split into a separate universe every time a quantum event happens.
Yep.
That would be a Type 2 multiverse, and then the Type 3 multiverse would be a universe with a totally different mathematical structure. There could be an infinite number of each type of multiverse.
Absolutely.
Which is just absolutely mind-boggling.
And every Big Bang may have just been one universe crashing into another, splintering another universe off from it.
It could be a black hole. It could be
the singularity on the other side of a black hole.
Just a quantum fluctuation.
So not only do we take that into account, now we haven't even talked about time yet.
No.
Because we theorize the universe is 13 billion years old?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, now relatively to all the number of galaxies and star systems, 13 billion isn't that much.
No, it doesn't. That's actually kind of the one number that I never thought was that impressive when I would look at all this stuff like billions of stars and billions of galaxies, but 13 billion, like the Earth is only 5. I say only.
Right.
The Earth's only 5 billion years old. The universe is only 3 times older than the Earth. That's pretty It seems like a reasonable number compared to everything else. But
so, and I think do they base that off of radiation? Like they can trace back the radiation to its origin point?
I don't know.
Okay. Anyways,
I don't know. I think they base it off of when they look toward the edge of the observable universe. It's like how long that light takes to get here.
Okay.
Allows them to kind of know when the Big Bang happened, when universes started, and universes, when galaxies started to form, so you can kind of run the clock backwards from that, and then the speed that everything's moving away from each other. Run it backwards and kind of come up with an idea of when it all happened.
You just extrapolate in reverse.
Yeah.
Instead of going forward into the future, you just reverse the equation backwards.
Yep.
And so, and I guess time is a relative thing. So relative to the length of humanity, the universe has been around for a long time.
Yes.
How long has written history of humanity been out?
10,000 years.
Less than that, I think 6. Right? The Sumerians.
Yeah.
The original cultures that we can find writings from.
6, 10. What's the difference?
Yeah. What's the difference, right?
Yeah.
It's so
we're talking about
minute.
Yeah, something like that.
So minute.
Yeah.
So what that says to me in my probabilistic brain is that we've evolved our societies as a species over the course of 6,000 years. And look where we've come from. Even in just the last 150 years, look how we've gone from incredible advances in technology in just 150 years, not to count back to the invention of the wheel, which was just yesterday in cosmological terms, right? that would, in my probabilistic brain, tell me that there were civilizations that existed for 5, 10, or 100 million years before we were ever even a twinkle in God's eye.
Probabilistically, yeah.
Probabilistically.
Yeah.
So if those civilizations existed and evolved for, let's say it was, instead of like us, 6,000 years, let's say they were 1,000,000 years, how much more technologically advanced would they be than us if they followed the same extrapolation of trends?
Much more.
Well, much more,
if
right?
If they didn't kill themselves.
If they didn't kill themselves,
they make
right?
that work, and if they're interested in building technologies, like another thing I've always thought about is life could evolve on a different planet, and they could be more like reptilian. Like, I don't know. I've got a leopard gecko upstairs. He doesn't give a shit if he ever sees another one his entire life.
Okay.
No, that's a.
Yeah,
Now assume that reptile
you can't build societies like that.
Exactly. Or like an octopus is
Sure.
another. An octopus is a highly intelligent animal that lives on our ocean.
For sure.
However, it's secluded. It's never, no matter how smart it gets, the thing has, every one of its tentacles has a brain.
Of course.
It has been shown to solve problems, at a very high level. I mean, who knows? It's hard to compare and contrast.
Yeah, but it isn't one species per planet. We live on the same
It's not,
planet.
but we're the only species on this planet that can build, a spaceship. Mm-hmm. An octopus might be as smart as us, but it's not going to build a spaceship, and you could be dealing with that too. So,
well, that means we just have a different set of skills than it does.
Exactly, but
so smart being a weird term to use in that situation, sure. Because we do have that.
I guess my point is you could discover hundreds, thousands of intelligent civilizations in this galaxy, none of which will ever build anything.
For sure, absolutely.
That could be a possibility too.
But we're already finding them on our own planet alongside of us.
Will you be talking about the octopus?
Well, yeah, of course.
Sure. But it's not going to build a spaceship.
But it doesn't need to, because there might be a species that lives alongside of it, like we do.
Yeah, that could be.
So one doesn't have to preclude the other.
No, definitely not. I'm just saying that.
All we're doing is talking about probabilistic odds here.
Yeah, sure.
So it's probabilistic, reasonably probabilistic to say that species have gone through advanced technologies.
Yeah.
Long before we ever existed.
Yeah, somewhere in some galaxy.
And that's
some
just assuming that we're in the one real universe, right? Yeah. Because we already know that we're building simulations, which will get infinitely more realistic with the 10,000, 20,000, 100,000, 1,000,000 years of evolution to our own virtual realities that we're going to create and build in simulations in order to run probabilities, in order to run our future societies. Mm-hmm. With advanced AI technology that's probably also self-aware. There is just that whole pantheon we built right there in knowing what the possibilities are precludes us from being the only intelligence. Yeah. Unless you wanted to say that God came down and said, here's the one little place of light that I'm going to... And it would have to be purely...
That's very, very unlikely. That's as unlikely... I can't
leave anything out.
I know, but I think that we can... I feel like we ruled that out when we discovered that the Earth wasn't the center of the universe.
Well, the whole Ptolemaic.
Yeah.
There was a philosopher named Ptolemy that the church loved because he would parrot the bullshit that... God created us, and we know that because everything revolves around us here on Earth. And then if you believed up until, Galileo?
Yeah, until the church pardoned him in 1992.
Yeah, and pardoned him in 1992. It took that long for them to pardon the guy they executed, right?
No, they didn't execute him. They just put him on house arrest his whole life.
Oh, they put him on... Who did they execute for that?
Lots of other people.
Lots of other people. Oh, that's right. Oh.
Lots of other people.
So think about how self-centered we've been.
Yeah. It's our nature.
This is the way I look at the UFO, UAP, alien subject.
Yeah.
I cannot look at it through those terms. I refuse to do it.
Yeah. I try not to also. There's so many possibilities. It's hard. When it comes down to it, I believe in them. I've never seen one. That's my disclaimer. Sure. I've never seen a UFO.
Believing and knowing are two different things, though. Exactly.
They are.
Yep.
But I've seen enough evidence that it's obvious that there's some weird shit out there in the sky. Like that's as far as I'm able to go with what I. Other than that, it's all guesses. It's guesswork. Where does it come from? What is it? Why is it here? It's pretty obvious. It is here. It's pretty obvious. It's been covered up in a lot of ways until even recently with the exposure. We still don't have a full picture.
Why do you think it was covered up?
That's a good question. Probably to keep people from freaking out.
Okay.
I mean, I think especially whenever, I mean, we all know what happened with the War of the Worlds broadcast. People lost their minds. Yeah.
Yeah,
They put that on the radio and people tuned in late.
Was that a social experiment?
It's not intentionally, but yeah.
Not intentionally? Okay.
But yes, absolutely.
Yeah. What year was that? Do you happen to know?
I don't know off the top of my head. I think it was the 30s.
Probably.
Yeah. You got people actually believing that Martians are invading. So I think that the government they generally want to keep people freaking out. Citizens are bad, Citizens who aren't freaking out, who are just going to work and paying their taxes, are good. And so why burden
no kidding,
them,
right?
Why burden them with the information?
Sure.
And this is from the government's perspective.
Well, I can see why governments wouldn't want their populations to understand that there's something superior to the government technologically. There's a lot of good reasons for that.
Yeah.
Number one, it's scary.
Yeah.
Who's going to protect us?
Yeah. It is scary. It's terrifying.
Also, too, institutions, the control institutions like religion and government. Religion wouldn't be a whole big fan of it because it would cast a very large shadow upon everything they've been trying to teach for a few thousand years, right?
Yeah, you got to explain it all of a sudden, and
you got to explain something that
God didn't
talk to you about.
It doesn't already fit into the paradigm.
It doesn't fit into the paradigm exactly. Yep. So, but I think
fundamentalist religion has a hard enough time explaining dinosaurs. Imagine them trying to explain UFOs.
That's right. Yeah, the devil had the foresight to put those dinosaur bones in the ground.
I've heard that once or twice.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Yep. But. And no, don't get me wrong. There might be issues with carbon dating, but I don't think so. I think carbon dating is probably pretty good.
No,
like I said, I try to think in probabilities, not certainties,
absolutes. Yep.
Not absolutes. So, with that in mind, I also think that a big reason to hold it back is from the military standpoint. Like we just addressed, it's scary to think someone's out there maybe messing around with us, maybe observing us, that has incredible technology that we can't do anything about. So, that's a little scary. However, I think the bigger thing is it sounds like there's been a very strong possibility. There's been a number of retrieved craft over the years that we want to retain a military advantage by keeping these things secret. If our adversaries don't even know they exist, how can they invent them? How can they start trying to reverse engineer technologies?
I wonder if any of our technologies could possibly have come from that. Like maybe we developed stealth. I don't know. Just an example. Like all of a sudden you've got a crashed alien spaceship and it's like, there's an idea.
Someone in the military named Corso was there as part of he wrote a book. I think it was called The Day After Roswell.
Yeah.
And he talks about his involvement in what occurred in the crash, or multiple crashes, at outside of Roswell, New Mexico.
Yep.
And in that book, he does talk about the technologies that were harvested from the retrieved wreckage there.
Yeah.
And one of them that I think is interesting that he talks about is fiber optics. Imagine being able to bend light and send information at the speed of light. Well, all you do is create a fiber optic network and send light signals throughout it, and light's going to travel around the bends and corners.
Yeah.
And it seems so mundane to us now to think of fiber optics that way. But it is light speed travel of information.
Yeah.
It would make sense that their ships would work that way.
Yep.
Why wouldn't it? Right? But there's a bunch of other things he said that were involved too, which kind of maybe would pseudo answer that question. I think that some of the disclosure people that have been coming out from the military in recent years, have expressed the sentiment that we've been seeded and gifted certain things from them. Have you heard
Seeded and
that?
gifted.
Have you heard this?
No.
They dropped craft here on purpose to give us the technology.
Why would they do that?
I don't know, but that's the sentiment in the military right now.
Interesting.
And the intelligence services that have possibly been dealing with this since,
I just don't
probably
know
prior to the 40s, but yeah.
why somebody would want to
Why would they do
travel that far to give just to hand us.
Maybe
something.
they're not traveling that far at all.
That could be.
Again, let's not.
Still, why are they going to the effort? It would be like me walking over to my neighbor's house and being like, maybe not my neighbor, some guy down the street I've never met before.
Let me paint a scenario.
Drop something on his porch.
Let me paint a scenario that I'm not sure I've ever heard painted by anybody else. So, and again, this is just theoretics. But what if the universe really is a cold, dark place? Which we know it is.
It is.
It is, right? And what if there were civilizations that existed or still exist after 1 million years of evolution? It's highly likely that if you turn a light switch on in a dark room, whoever's in the same room, the universe, is going to see the light come on and wonder, oh, who flipped the light switch?
Yeah.
Well, isn't that what we've been doing since we started sending out radio signals off this planet in the 1920s, 30s, whatever?
Yeah.
Which also just happens to be the same time that we started inventing nuclear weapons and doing nuclear weapons testing. Well, I'm pretty sure that would turn on a little light switch in the universe,
It would.
especially if those nuclear weapons are causing issues with the fabric of space-time that we don't understand.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're sitting there tearing atoms apart
Yeah.
and harvesting the energy from doing that. Ridiculous amounts of energy and light and radiation
Yeah.
can be extrapolated from your sock.
Yeah.
Right? If you could just turn it into a nuclear weapon. Right? So there's so much energy in just even the smallest amount of matter that if we're shattering these atoms, it's got to be tearing at that quantum level. It's got to be doing it. So that would send signals, right?
Yeah.
Especially if they're 1 million years more advanced. It's literally just that simple as them seeing a light get turned on in a dark room.
But it's going to send. The signals are going to be sent at the speed of light, though.
No. Well, yeah. Are the radio transmissions speed of light signals? They are, aren't they?
That'd be speed of light. So
Yep. So here
it's going to take
10 years.
Well, I mean, to the nearest star system, I believe, is 4 years. Speed of light. You're talking since the time that we started sending those, a very, very minute part of the universe.
Are you still thinking in our terms, or are you thinking in theirs yet?
Well, I'm thinking in ours, but I'm thinking in the,
Right.
the
You're
speed.
yeah.
I'm thinking in the speed that our information
In
travels.
the
to them.
cosmological constants that we know.
Even if they can get here quicker, let's say they see the signal and they've got a way to get around the speed of light.
Sure.
Let's say they're 50 light years away, but they can make it here in 30 minutes. They've still got to wait the 50 years to get our signal and realize, like, oh shit, these guys are up to something at the speed we send the signal.
Okay, let's go deeper in the rabbit hole.
Okay.
What if after 1 million years of evolution, we somehow figure out how to reverse time using antimatter? Wouldn't it seem to make sense that if matter spins in one direction and you can create antimatter, maybe it would spin in the other direction?
Yeah, you're going to have a whole bunch of paradoxes there, but
Well,
sure.
okay.
I'll humor it.
What we call paradoxes right now may not be. With
Okay.
1 million years of technological evolution. Okay. Once you start tinkering with that, time doesn't matter anymore because, okay, it's just like that line in Terminator, right? They're walking through the hall, and he says, "When are you going to get this time machine finished?" And he goes, "Doesn't really matter, does it?" Nope. Two scientists talking about it. It really doesn't matter when, as long as it happens.
It's like the meme, what do we want time travel?
When
When do we
unlock
want it?
time? Exactly.
When do we want it? It's not really irrelevant, is it?
Exactly. It's not relevant to that conversation
Yeah.
anymore. So time doesn't matter anymore. Space probably doesn't matter. It probably becomes child's play.
Yeah.
I'm just going to assume that with the large grand scope of all the universes that we just...
Yeah. Let's make the assumption that time doesn't matter to them.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. So with that being said, they're God level
Yeah.
on some level. Maybe some ways they're not, but
Yeah.
technologically they would be compared to us.
Sure.
Because it's all relative,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
With all this in mind, it's impossible to think that we're here alone. Now, Well, what do we know? We know that there's possibly likely a crash in Roswell, New Mexico, that is popularly known. It's probably likely that there was a crash in Kecksburg, Pennsylvania, that is a little bit less popularly known, but still popularly known.
Yep.
It's also likely, according to what some of the whistleblowers now are saying, that this has been happening everywhere, and a lot of governments have been seeded this technology. That's what they're saying. That's what the whistleblowers are saying.
Yeah.
Why would they do it? I don't know. I tend to think, with all the descriptions of the popular grays, that they're not even sentient. That they're literally biological robots. They're doing a job.
Maybe not even biological.
No, they're biological. They're physical. They're skin and everything, but they're probably 3D printed. With a CRISPR genetic and they're purely made for space travel. I mean, look at them.
Okay. Would that make them biological though? If they're 3D printed?
Oh, absolutely, for sure, because it's cellular printing.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, they're biological.
Yeah.
But they're literally mapped out, created like an architect would create a building, but this just purely 3D printed on a cellular level.
Yeah.
And they're made purely for space travel in this theoretical game that I'm going through right now, right? Yeah. Because think about it, they're tiny, diminutive. It doesn't take a whole lot of calories to keep one of those things alive. They don't even hardly need a mouth or ears. They're probably part of a hive mind. They don't even have personalities, probably. They're literally just like ants.
That's what I would do if I wanted to travel the galaxy. I would create something that's perfectly fit for it.
And that's what they look like, right? They're perfectly fit for that.
Something that doesn't get bored during during a long space flight.
Sure. But they're great at their job. They're engineered for that job. They might have, and a lot of abductees talk about the insectoids that actually are the real, they're the kind of the boss when it comes to those. So I don't know if you've heard of any of this stuff before.
Some of it. Okay. Some of it's new.
So what I'm going off is what I've read from a gentleman named Dr. David Jacobs, who also lives in Pennsylvania, who in the 80s started seeing patients. He was a therapist, and these patients were coming in with the same stories. And he wasn't into the UFO alien thing prior to this. But he would quietly keep his notes on everybody, and he started seeing these corroborating stories.
Weird.
And so he became a regressive hypnotist, and he's now written a series of 3, 4, maybe 5 books over the course of since the 80s until now, where David Jacobs is saying, hey, the stories I'm hearing from people, what's occurring, what they say is occurring to them under regressive hypnosis. And again, that has its own problems too. Again, this is all speculative and all purely this is just throwing seeds out there for you as a viewer to go and look into yourself and formulate your own opinion, because when it really comes down to it, none of our opinions matter. Yeah. There's one objective truth, right? And what we believe of it is only a portion of it, so we don't know.
We're just speculating.
We're purely speculating. But I'm going off of what I've read and what I've looked into it. And he's Dr. David Jacobs. Look into him. He's saying that the stories are changing over the course of time, but everybody doesn't know what each other's saying, and they're all saying the same thing. Yeah. And that there's a progression to what's going on with the alien abduction phenomenon.
What's the progression? So
it sounds like, from what I understand, is that it's a genetic thing where they would literally take genetic material, just like, you ever heard of Benny and Barney Hill?
No.
Okay.
Oh no, I have actually.
Yeah, that's pretty popular. Yeah. There was a couple in New Hampshire in the 1950s, I think, and there's evidence. They have her dress, what she was wearing, and her blood there, where this couple says, under aggressive hypnosis, and crying on these tapes, just you can hear the emotion and the heartbreak in them, that they were taken. He had semen taken from him. She had eggs taken from her. And ever since then, it's been a genetic experiment, maybe a hybrid. What David Jacobs is saying is a hybridization program. Is they're taking the gray DNA and splicing it into humans and then naturalizing them, which is impossible to do when they don't even know what a fork is. Yeah. So they're taking people and they're removing babies, growing babies, and then people are being brought back because these babies, they realize that the grays, according to David Jacobs, can't survive properly and grow properly because they have the human component that they don't understand. So they have to bring the mothers back to try to nurture them. And that's what this whole program is about. And that's why, according to them, according to David Jacobs, this is following family lines because they're using genetics. And there's a hybridization program of people going on right now. Take it for what you want, take it for what it's worth, but that's the word from David Jacobs. He's done a number of interviews on it. It's going to be very easy to find what he's talking about. And he seems to me, and maybe I'm just a nut job, but he seems to me like a very reasonable person.
Yeah.
So, but we all have to make our own as objective as possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, what do we know? We know that Roswell. We know that in World War II, they were termed Foo Fighters because both the Germans thought it was us and the Japanese thought it was us, and we thought it was the Germans and the Japanese, but it was neither of us. There were these discs in the air that they were calling Foo Fighters. The fighter pilots were seeing them. And we know throughout the years there have been a number of... To me, it's likely that as soon as you flip on the light switch, when you start turning on the technologies that we've turned on our planet, we're going to emit stuff.
Somebody's going to see it.
Somebody's going to see it. And that also seems to correlate as to when we started seeing the phenomenon here ourselves.
True.
It just seems like there's almost, correlation isn't causation.
Yeah.
But you have to look
You've got
into
the
it.
whole ancient aliens theory, though. You got the guy with the crazy hair.
Listen, the only reason the reason I'm not into that isn't because I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
It's because to me it's not pertinent to what I find important.
Yeah.
It seems like that theory of how we flip the switch for technological society and they showed up at the same time.
Yeah.
The correlation there is too strong for me to ignore that, and that's really all I care about anyways, is because I care about how it affects us contemporarily.
To play devil's advocate,
yes,
it's also correlated with the advent of science fiction.
No, science fiction has been a part of human society since the beginning.
Pretty much H.G. Wells,
what we call science fiction now...
It would have been called fantasy before.
But
I guess you're right, though.
Would have been called fantasy before, but if you go into the Buddhist Vedic texts, the term for UFO from 2,500 years ago was Vimana.
Really?
They literally talk about how there were friggin' battles in the sky between UFOs.
Okay, so I guess we would call that a myth or something. Like we maybe wouldn't call it science fiction.
Myths.
Yeah.
And then the Bible talks about friggin' people coming down in wheels.
Yeah, it does.
A wheel within a wheel.
It does.
And you look at all this old religious art.
Yeah.
And if you look at old religious art, you're going to find UFOs in there. Yeah. There's one of Moses with a UFO shining a freaking light down by him.
You make a good point. I guess H.G. Wells came and just added the science, the real science.
What we call science now.
Yeah. I guess you can't have science fiction before you've got science, can you?
So. Well, sure, but there was always science on some level. It's just we didn't. The further we get along with our own scientific development, it's like trying to give someone in the 1500s a cell phone.
Yeah.
Technology, when advanced enough, is indistinguishable from magic, right?
Yeah, sure.
You give a cell phone that was working to a 1500s soldier in the British Army, and they're going to be like, "This is magic."
Yeah.
Right. This is impossible.
Yep.
Who are you, and why are you here? I'm probably going to kill you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
But that was only 500 years ago, and now we all carry cell phones today, and we take it for granted, and it is magic.
Yep.
It's magic.
And if somebody showed up with a time machine right here, you would, well, maybe not you, but most people would be like, magic.
Magic, right. Yeah. So, it's all relative. And I think
is.
The UFOs, the UFO alien, we have to take ourselves out of that relative place to just us being the center of our own universe.
Yeah.
And we have to realize, I'm sorry if I've ranted for a long time.
No.
It sounds like I have.
You're good.
But there was the 1980s UN speech by Ronald Reagan where he talks about if humanity was faced by an outside alien threat, would we all come together? And then at the end of that speech, he goes, "Is there not already an alien threat amongst us?" And Reagan was on record as saying he'd seen UFOs from out of his plane when he was governor of California.
I didn't know that, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Huh. There's a story that was in a major magazine about Jackie Gleason. Jackie Gleason was friends with Richard Nixon. Mm-hmm. Now, if you look up Jackie Gleason's house in New York, it's a UFO house. And the way this news article, it might have been Vanity Fair or one of those major newspapers, was that Richard Nixon was on the inside, on the know. Uh-huh. and Jackie Gleason was his friend, and they got drinking one night, and they decided, and Nixon took him to places where the bodies were, and that's what was said in this major publication in the 70s.
Wow.
Yeah. And ever since after that, Jackie Gleason became a UFO nut. Mm-hmm. You know, Buzz Aldrin's on record on C-SPAN is talking about how Phobos, the moon off of Mars, has a monolith on it, and how did that get there? There's the whole thing about the dark side of the moon.
Yeah.
You know, maybe they don't have to travel light years anymore. They just it could be in our oceans. You know, there's people talking about USOs nowadays, which is unidentified submerged objects that are going down to bases at the bottom of the ocean.
The octopus thing. We don't know what the hell's down there.
What the hell's going on down there? Exactly.
We have no idea.
So it's super complex.
Yeah.
And as you can tell, I can rant on it for a long time.
The possibilities are endless. That's the kind of the major point here. Like,
which is fun.
We're talking. It is.
It's
but we're talking about
a real intellectual would look at this subject, in my opinion, and have a field day with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
A real open-minded, not so open-minded your brain falls out.
Too many of them are just like they write it off though. But people are worried, especially like people that are scientists. They're worried about how their peers are going to view them. But we're talking about the possibility of oceans. We're talking about the possibilities of coming from another star system, the dark side of the moon, one of 3 different types of multiverses.
Why in the hell is there a moon in tidal lock around our planet that only shows one side? I'm not saying, and that when they dropped the friggin' capsule on it, it rang like a bell for hours. This is NASA's own words. Yeah. It's hollow. Like I'm going off the deep end here, but these are stated facts.
Yeah.
There is a side of the moon that we never see. Why?
Because it's tidally locked. I mean, if you want the short answer.
Are there any other tidally locked moons in the galaxy,
or
not in our galaxy, our star system? I mean,
not in our solar system. I think so, but I don't know that for sure.
I don't know. I want to know that. I should look that up before. But what if we're the only one that has a magically locked moon where we can only see half of it?
I don't know. That'd be crazy.
Right?
I think there are other ones.
It's also the exact right size and the right distance away from Earth that it perfectly covers the sun during an eclipse.
Yeah, that is cool too.
Why? How did this happen?
And how does any of it happen though? How are we in the right distance from the sun? Why are we here? It all comes down.
How are we in the Goldilocks zone, 93 million miles away?
And the answer
where it's perfectly warm, but it's perfectly cold too.
Because you're not likely to find yourself not in the Goldilocks zone. That's why.
Right.
Because I'm here. Why am I here? Because where else am I going to be?
Like, where was I before I knew I was here?
Yeah.
Did any of it exist? There's so many existential questions that get tied into this cosmic thinking.
It's one of these things that brings about more questions than answers, and that's why
which is the fun part.
Why I enjoy it. Yeah.
Some people get in and some get overwhelmed with all the questions and all the answers. I'm invigorated by it.
Yeah, me too.
You too, right?
Yeah, me too. It gives me more shit to delve into. The tree of questions keeps getting bigger and bigger, and so
for every probable answer you get, you can ask 2 more. You start learning what questions to ask next.
Yep.
I think that's fun.
Yeah, it is.
For some people, it's overwhelming and tiring, though, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's why they don't pay attention to it, and that's fine.
And that's completely fine. Absolutely.
I understand, but
I'm glad they're not mad at me for being the way I am.
They get to question number 3, and it's like, all right, that's enough. But some people just live on this shit, and that's
gun to your head.
Yeah.
What do you think's going on? Let's not talk in uncertainties, but probabilities. What do you think?
I got a gun to my head. That's a certainty. Gun to my head. I've got to tell you what is probably going on with UFOs. I think the most likely. It's got to be most likely that they're from other star systems, because that's the only of all the possibilities. That's the only one I can prove exists. I know other star systems exist. I don't know time travel exists. I don't know. But then again, they could be from the ocean.
Let's start from the basis of: do you believe this is real or not?
Yeah, I do.
You do. Okay.
I do. I believe that there are definitely unidentified flying objects out there that defy
non-human.
It has to be. It doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be. It could be human, but
there's military advantage in holding back technology.
Yeah, but that technology is so good. It's so far advanced.
But what if the same technology that gives you a military advantage, if released, would also free humanity, and you want to keep them under control.
Yeah. I mean,
free energy technology?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, I know.
It would also release...
So maybe that's it, but...
Is that part of it? I mean, how can you tax people if they can just fly off into space?
Right.
Or, you know, free energy, how can you charge them to live if there's an abundance of free, clean energy?
Yeah, it'd be tough.
Literally a machine that pulls energy out of the quantum vacuum, the 0-point energy of the universe. And literally, you plug something into it, and it just draws the energy it needs, and that's it. And you can't charge for that.
It's free.
Does the economy of the world fall if you change over to this new energy technology?
The structure of the economy would.
It crumbles. You want to talk about decay? We were talking about people being freaked out by the alien thing. What if it really comes down to the fact that free energy is at the base of all this, and the economy and the power structure of the entire world is at stake if people realize it exists?
Yeah.
Because you can't control them anymore.
That'd be a reason to keep it under
That would be the
control.
biggest reason, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I could see that too, because God knows they're holding on to their power is the number one goal of the people in power. It always has been.
What if one of the reasons the society is so fucked up right now is because we were really more evolved technologically than we've been told? That human evolution had a natural way of playing out, and the powers that be held us back 200 years technologically while we were advancing as human beings.
I could see that happening.
And there becomes this dissonance between those two things, and people are freaking out without even knowing why.
Yeah.
That maybe we're more advanced than what we've been given.
It's possible.
And that caused a lot of tension, I would imagine. Because people, the people in power want to stay in power.
Yeah. They're number one.
That's a huge reason to keep all this under wraps for as long as they did. But if that's the case, then why would they start letting it out a little bit? Do they know something's coming?
Maybe. That's.
Are they trying to get out ahead of something?
The biggest question of the whole thing is why are they letting out a little bit?
Yep.
Why? That's the biggest question of all. The rest of the questions you can speculate on them, but that one's a real head scratcher.
Did you know that the Israeli defense minister made statements about a galactic federation that we know exists?
No.
Did you know that Paul Hellyer, the defense minister of Canada, corroborated them?
No, I didn't know that either.
Those are true statements.
That's crazy.
I think people know. I think they know. I think they know that something has been going on for a long time, and I think they're trying to stay in power.
I can tell you another thing, too. It's getting harder and harder to keep information under wraps like it used to be, so maybe that's another reason they're letting it out a little bit, because things didn't used to get out unless, there used to be 3 news channels, and unless it was on one of those, you didn't know about it.
That's right.
So
now people can...
Yeah.
The internet.
So maybe they're trying to get ahead of...
The only thing that sucks about the internet is it's like trying to drink from a fire hose.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, right?
There's so much more than you could ever actually use.
Yeah.
And you don't know what ones are real and which ones aren't.
Yeah.
Which is the whole point of fact checking. But when it's given to the government, it all becomes propaganda on the fact checking anyway. So it's not worth it with anything, But as far as an issue is concerned, I feel very comfortable in saying that I think they exist. I think a lot of people find that they probably do exist nowadays.
I'm with you.
I would guess more than 70% of people, Americans, believe that UFOs are alien and they've been coming here and they're not freaking out about it.
Probably. And 70% is probably a good
I'd have to look it up.
Yeah.
But that's my guess. Intuitively.
We should take a poll. We should just go.
We should take a poll. Let us know whether you think I'm a nut job or not. All right. Poll question of the day has been a nut job. 97% believe he is. All right, cool.
Wait, do I have to put my name down when I vote, or?
I already know your opinion. I'm not worried about that. But no, I see a huge shift for humanity the moment we admit that this is real, because the economy collapses.
Yeah.
A petrodollar economy?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Not good. It's not good for your re-election hopes.
No.
That's for sure. When everything crashes around you and then people...
Oh, it's the system of government collapses. You don't
The
even
system
need
of
to worry
government
about a real
collapses, the
election.
economy collapses,
Yeah.
the people. 1 in 7 American jobs is based around the auto industry.
Yeah.
What if those people lose all? What if 1/7 of our population, working population, all of a sudden is out of a job because there's free energy now?
It's not good.
It's not good, and they're not paying taxes either when they're sitting at home. But then again, they don't have to pay for energy anymore either.
Yeah.
How does the world change theoretically if we come to the realization and the admission that there have been extraterrestrials either monitoring or visiting or messing with us?
Yeah. And
How
the
does it
energy
change?
is free. I mean, the energy's free thing is a bigger change than aliens. Like,
Oh, for sure. It changes everything forever.
yeah, like I don't know. I think you could probably, all other things equal, if it came out that aliens were definitely, if there was definite proof that UFO were aliens, they were real, they visited us. I don't think necessarily a lot has to change just based on that fact alone. But you start introducing some of the technologies, and then everything changes, and that's the big thing. Like the knowledge itself isn't going to. Not nobody. A lot of people give a shit, but most people are just going to go back to it. As long as they're not invading.
Sure.
As long as they're not abducting me, you know? Like,
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that's probably most people's opinion on that one.
yeah,
I mean,
but oh yeah, like, give free energy, time travel, that sort of
Oh my
shit.
God.
Everything's over. Like,
time travel changes everything even more than free energy
yes,
does.
yeah,
Because that's always the problem in theoretical physics when you're talking about time travel. Heck, there's a guy's been spending his whole life. I sent you the article on it the other day. What university has he been working at his whole life?
I don't remember off the top of my head, no.
He says he's figured out time travel.
Yeah,
He's figured it out. It's just getting the energy to do it. Well, what if you could plug it into the 0 point energy of the universe?
Yeah.
Where it's infinite energy.
you can
Then
go
there's no
wherever.
problem. Then you're not talking about having to generate the energy anymore.
well, if there's time travel, there's no time, right? Like,
Right,
Then
right.
what does it matter? Then
And-
it's all giant conglomerate. Everything happens at the same time. That's I don't know.
And maybe
it gets crazy.
Maybe that's the Tao of the universe, is the fact that two things that seem opposite are always completely true. Maybe relativism and static certainty are both two sides of the same coin that have to coexist in order for the universe to be balanced properly. And that's probably what it really comes down to, is that we look like we're on the quantum level, it looks like, or on the physical level, normal standard physics, it looks like 1 + 1 = 2.
Yeah.
But then, which is, literally karma and literally cause and effect. And that's how the universe is governed. And then you delve a little deeper and you find that quantum physics exists purely on a probabilistic basis.
Yeah.
The whole, the
Things
double
aren't there until you look at them. Yeah.
the double slit experiment, where if the operant observer effect and spooky action at a distance. You ever heard?
Quantum entanglement. Yeah.
Quantum entanglement.
Yeah.
We know all this is real.
Yep.
So not only are we in a solid
didn't seem-
materialistic universe, we're also in a probabilistic universe, and they have to coexist. And maybe that's the unified field theory that everybody's been going after.
That's what they're looking for. Yeah.
That's what they're looking for. Is how do those two things converge?
Yeah.
What math equations do you invent? Because
To make it all work.
Well, to me, math equations only apply to the physical universe,
Yeah, that's what
because
they
it's
describe
our
things.
description of physicality.
Yep. It's a
But if-
description of something you see. It makes it make sense. Yeah.
But if physicality is only half of the coin,
Mm-hmm.
and you're talking about an immaterial quantum probabilistic universe on the other half, which is just as important,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
what kind of mathematical calculations can you do to... Because that only describes that. It doesn't describe that too. We need to expand our thinking.
Yep.
And that's the problem, isn't it? That's the crux. The crux of the whole thing.
Yep.
Super interesting.
Very.
Maybe
Mind
not,
blowing.
maybe not to you, and maybe not to them. I don't know.
If
To
they're,
you and me.
if they're still watching, it's interesting to them. Too.
Absolutely. Well, yeah. Oh, thanks for all two of you. I appreciate that. Well, I've ranted hard on this one. I need to open up the floor to you to let you speak some.
So what do you want to know what I think about? Like,
Dude, you just say,
I mean,
tell
I've
me.
been talking to you the whole time.
Tell me.
I mean, I'm going in on it. I don't know. Like, I'm listening
Okay.
to you. Like,
Okay.
kind of. You've got a lot to say about this. So.
I do. Like, I have a lot of pent up. I don't talk about this very often.
I mean, we
I only do it on
we
public.
just talked
and
about
camera.
like 30 things, so I don't know what you want to know. Like,
What do you think about anything that I said then?
about what specifically?
I don't know. Tell me.
I mean, you
Anything.
just said like
Anything
50 things.
in general. I mean,
I mean, my thing is, I don't like. I don't know. I try not to speculate too much. Like
Right.
I think about all this shit, but I try not to speculate about what I think's going on because I don't know.
Okay.
And that's one of the biggest things about me is that I am so willing to admit when I don't know something. I think the possibility of time travel is fascinating. I think the possibility of aliens on different planets visiting us is fascinating. I think the possibility of USOs and UFOs are fascinating. I think that, quantum physics is fascinating. But, I mean, if you're asking me what I think's going on, to me it's just a sea of questions.
Okay.
And that's what I love about
I think I cut you off earlier.
I don't know if you did or
I
you
did
did.
because I asked you what you think the likelihoods are. Like and we started with that basis of yes, you believe this is real.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, you
Where are they
believe-
from?
Where are they from?
I don't know.
You said you thought it was probably another planetary system somewhere.
That's most likely based on everything we know right
They're not
now.
from
but-
Venus.
No, probably not.
No,
Yeah.
no, Venus is a little warm.
Probably
Yeah.
not. But the answer is I have no fucking idea. And
Right.
Isn't that
the great answer?
It's kind of scary, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what they are. I don't know where they're from. I don't know if the UFOs have the aliens on them. I don't know if the alien bodies that they claim to have recovered
Sure.
have anything to do with the UFOs.
Sure.
I don't know how much of it's real, how much of it isn't. I know that there's a lot of, there's congressional testimony saying that the UFOs themselves are real. This shit's on video. But I mean, if you're asking me what I think is going on, I'm going to have to wait and see. I don't know, and I'm fine with that. I'm like that about a lot of different things. Like
We're just living our lives right now. I mean, this is like the candy.
Yeah.
In a world where we have to eat proteins and carbs
Yep.
in order to survive, so
Yep.
we can work and
Yeah.
live.
Yeah,
this is literally the chocolate ice cream.
Yep.
Okay.
This is it.
It's funny though that the chocolate ice cream of our life right now really might be the most important thing that ever happened to humanity.
It could be.
It might be in the larger perspective of things.
Because that would, if the aliens present themselves, if they land
Maybe they have been.
and present themselves, like show up on CNN.
Yeah, anything short of
It
CNN
would
or
be
the White
fake
House
news,
lawn.
but no, like seriously, like show up and present themselves and say, "Hey, we're here." Like that's gonna change everything. That's gonna be a whole.
Yeah.
That's when the whole system collapses. Unless I don't know.
Maybe
unless-
they know that, and that's why they haven't. I tend to think.
I don't know why they would care though. Why would they care?
I
if our
tend to.
system
I tend to
collapses?
think that they're parasitic.
Yeah.
At least the classical
Well, here-
interpretation of the Greys.
My
I
thought
believe
is-
we have a rare resource.
My thought
They
is
want
if
it.
they've made the journey here, they've got something to gain from it.
Absolutely right.
They're not going to just come here to be like, oh, hey, like
They're not space
we're
scientists.
aliens. We're here to say hello. No, they're here to get something from us if they're here.
They're not space scientists watching us like Star Trek benevolently.
No, there's no point.
There's no way. What I believe we have of value is this planet.
Yeah,
This planet is probably really fucking rare
yeah,
in the cosmos. This beautiful blue pearl dot,
yep,
capable of so much diversity, and it's protected perfectly from the solar radiation. It's
Yeah.
the right temperature. It's great for growing life.
it's everything.
I'm sure of it that they're here because they want what we have here.
They
want
would have had
this.
to have evolved on a planet that has something said that
No, I think they're genetically created the way they look. So I don't think they're evolved at all. I think they're
genetically
pure-
created by who
whatever created them.
on a different planet.
Whatever created them.
Yeah.
I believe that it's probably pretty evident that they're biologically engineered
Yeah.
organisms. So they're not a product of evolution in that sense.
And another thing is, though, Earth is this beautiful blue planet from our perspective because we're evolved to live on it.
Right.
From somebody else's perspective on a different planet, it might
Listen, man.
look more like Venus looks.
Go
to us.
try and live on Jupiter and tell me which one you like better.
Yeah, but if you're from Jupiter,
it doesn't matter what kind of life form you are.
That's not true. I understand that Jupiter is a giant ball of gas, but if you're a life form that evolved to live on a giant ball of gas, that's the beautiful planet. This looks like the hellhole.
I don't think anything could evolve. to
No,
live on
probably
something.
not. But we're using
That's
Jupiter.
what I mean.
We're using Jupiter as
Is-
an example.
But we have to use the probabilities and likelihoods we know from reality, right?
Yeah.
And we know that life teems on this one planet.
Also, if they were here to take our planet from us, I feel like they'd have just done it. Like they would have showed up the first time and been
What
like,
if time?
boom.
What if haste makes waste?
Yeah.
You've heard that term before,
Yeah,
right?
but explain how you.
If you're a multi-million year civilization,
Yeah.
a 500-year takeover isn't a big fucking deal.
Yeah.
It's going to preserve resources. That's their primary objective. Let's eradicate this species slowly through genetic manipulation over the course of 500 years. And then boom, it's ours. No big deal in the relative scale of our empire. It's just another acquisition. It's not important.
Yeah.
But it was what we want.
But if it's not important, why would they do it?
Because it's what they do. We all, don't you think as humans, we have a genetic predisposition towards conquering?
Yeah, we do.
Towards expansion?
Oh, we definitely do.
I would imagine that any species that enters our level had to have that to get there.
That's another point I was actually about to make earlier, is that if they've come here, they've got to have that drive.
Yeah. I think any
the
species.
ones that don't, like the octopuses.
Right, they're not going
Or
to.
octopi. Is it octopi? Octopuses, octopi.
Octopi, I like that. Yeah.
Octopi, whatever the hell they are. Like a species like that that's intelligent, that they don't have any drive to conquer. They also don't have the drive to make technology.
Right.
But the technology is built by militaries. You know, if
Oh,
you've
no
got
kidding,
the technology to go to a different planet, I have to figure you fought a war or two already.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
And that's another reason why I feel like they should take like all this search for extraterrestrial intelligence. It's cool, but like let's assume maybe the UFOs we've seen aren't alien species. If that's the case, it's probably not a good idea to contact alien species.
Probably not a great
Probably
idea
a
at all.
terrible idea. Let's tear that shit down and just kind of like be quiet.
It's been said that in every instance of human history where a superior culture encounters another lower culture, the superior culture always assimilates
We
them.
saw what happened when the Europeans landed in America. Bad news for the Americans.
Bad news for the Native Americans. That's right. They thought it was India. Wrong.
Yeah, didn't matter.
Didn't matter.
You know, but that's happened over and over and over and over again.
Probably the case on an intergalactic level too.
Yeah, almost definitely.
So we're going to lose because we're in our infancy. I mean, if you think about things as a species, we're purely in our infancy. Like, you know, the TV physicist Michio Kaku.
There's also a chance to. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, but Michio Kaku.
Yeah, I think
talks
so.
about his grades of planetary civilizations, and according to his grades of planetary civilizations, we are literally in our very, very, very basic infancy, and we're super vulnerable right now.
But he's basing that on his own imagination. Like,
understandable, for sure.
There's a chance that we're projecting all this. We're projecting ourselves on all this. Maybe, maybe, just maybe, we're the ones that will eventually go out and conquer the galaxy, and we'll find nothing but octopi and reptilians and other species that you know, that never thought to build a rocket, that never even looked up at the sky. Maybe they're smart on their own planet, they're intelligent, but maybe we're projecting that and we're the ones that are going to conquer the galaxy. Who knows?
It brings me to, you know, the next thought is that, you know, the earliest writings that we know about, I think, on Earth are the Sumerian tablets. And the Sumerian tablets, according to Zecharia Sitchin, who spent a whole lifetime trying to decode them, he claimed that those tablets say that a species came here called the Anunnaki, and literally created us genetically to work for them, and that's how civilization started. And according to the shit he said, is likely they were from Mars.
Sounds far-fetched, but I'm listening.
But who knows, right?
Yeah.
But that's literally what Zecharia Sitchin says, and he probably was the first person to translate the Sumerian tablets. Then if you look at, the pictures, they're literally standing with giants, who are their gods and things of that nature. So who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
Our oldest origin stories say we were literally genetically created. So that's going into the ancient alien theory and all that stuff that I don't really have any problem with, but I don't care about a whole lot either because I think it's not contemporarily important. That's my opinion on it. I find this to be a contemporarily important issue for humanity right now.
It is. It
All
could
the
be.
other
If it isn't
stuff
right
is-
now, it could be very quickly.
Yeah. Well, I think we've been going for a little bit, man. I think have you kind of put everything out there that we want to talk about?
I think we have.
We've put a lot out there.
It's been a hell of an episode.
It's been a little machine gun fire of bullshit.
Yep. And we're not crazy. Hopefully.
I am.
Ben's crazy.
I am. Anything else you want to leave on this, man?
No, I'm good, man.
No.
It's been fun.
Well, I, for one, submit to my alien overlords. I hope you do too.
No, I'll fight
and
to the
I'll
death.
do the Vulcan bullshit grip on you. And I'll hopefully do the Vulcan bullshit grip on all of you to watch our stuff. All right. But thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe. I'm Ben.
I'm Matt.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Woo!